For decades, the long trail of southwestern Vermont has been dubbed as the Bennington Triangle Mystery. It still sends shivers through the spines of the locals of the area. Some say it was UFOs, some say serial killers. Either way it goes, there were a number of disappearances between 1945 and 1950 that no one could explain. It all started in 1943, a little before the strange disappearances. A 37-year-old man named Carl Herrick was hunting with his cousin Henry, north of Glattonsbury Mountain. The two ended up going in different directions, and Carl ended up getting lost. His cousin Henry alerted authorities, and after a few days of searching, Carl's body was found. His gun lay next to him, but hadn't been used. His cause of death was squeezing. Some people were certain it was a bear that got a hold of him. Article did confirm that there was hair on the romper Carl was wearing. Carl's case often gets overlooked as being a part of the Bennington Triangle due to his body being found, but many believe it's connected. 2 years after the death of Carl Herrick, another man by the name of Middle River went missing November 12, 1945. It was said that Rivers was an extremely experienced hunter, so his disappearance didn't make sense. He was leading a group of hunters when he decided to lead ahead of the group. After leaving Long Trail and Vermont Route 9, he suddenly vanished. Looked for him down to the U.S. Army for over a month, but he was never found. This case was more of a well-known one. It's a story of how an 18-year-old teen seemed to vanish into thin air while on a hike. Paula Jean Weldon was attending Bennington College at the time of her disappearance. Her friend said she abruptly left at 2:45 p.m. dressed in a red coat. She was quoted saying she was all done with her studies and she was taking a long walk. She hitchhiked the Long Trail, and around 4 p.m. she ran into her friend, Ernie Knapp, who also attended the college. She asked for directions and he gave them to her, warning her that she was not properly dressed and that the sun was setting soon. This was the last credible sighting of Paula. When she didn't show up the next day, her friend and roommate, Elizabeth Johnson, reported her missing. Search parties were out together, and there was hope when a local waitress thought she had seen Paula in distress. That lead turned out to be false, and the police set sights on other people. A lumberjack named Fred Goddard lived in a cabin along the Long Trail. He was also given conflicting accounts as to what happened. He even admitted to knowing where her body was, but he retracted his statement. He claimed that he made the story up, looking for attention. Her father became a person of interest when it was learned him and Paula had a recent fight, and she didn't return home for Thanksgiving. During her disappearance, her father, William Weldon, went missing for 36 hours without telling anyone. When he finally came back, he told authorities he believed Paula's boyfriend was responsible for her disappearance. It has been decades since her unsolved disappearance, and they even gave her the name of the real Little Red Riding Hood due to the red coat she was wearing on the Long Trail. One of the strangest Long Trail mysteries comes from a man named James Tedford, who seemed to have vanished into thin air. What makes this more strange is his wife, Pearl, had also vanished when James came home from serving during World War II. All that was left of her was a meal under the table and a sighting of her at the grocery store. Understandably, James went into a deep depression following his wife's disappearance 2 years prior and was now living at the Bennington Soldiers' Home. Now in his 60s, he took a bus to St. Albans City to spend time with his relatives. When it was time to go back, some of his relatives departed on the bus with him, but James had strangely disappeared, despite claims that he never left off the bus a single time. Despite 14 passengers accompanying him, not one person saw him leave the bus. All that was left of James was his luggage and bus timetable on his seat. The 14 passenger stories all checked out, and they explained the same thing. They never saw him leave the bus. So what happened? Some believe he may have gotten off and didn't tell anyone. Either that or someone knows more than they're telling. Jepson, only 8 years old, went to work with his mother, who was a caretaker of pigs. She instructed Paul not to leave the car, as she was only going to be gone for an hour. When his mother returned, Paul had vanished. Most people blame Paul's parents for his disappearance, but his father told the Albany Times that Paul's disappearance was the lure of the mountains, because Paul didn't talk about anything else for days. Like Paula Weldon, Paul Jepson was last seen wearing a red coat. Not much is known about this case other than it happened along the long trail. Frida Langer went missing on October 28, 1950. She decided to go on a hike with her cousin Herb near the woods of the mountains. However, shortly after the hike, Frida slipped into the stream and soaked her clothes and shoes. She asked her cousin Herb to wait for her as she went to change her clothes. After waiting a while, Herb got worried when Frida didn't return back to camp. Over the next weeks, search parties searched the area and nothing came up. That is, until May 12, 1951, a body was found near Somerset Reservoir, 3 miles from the campsite. Oddly enough, that area had been thoroughly searched at the time of her disappearance and turned up nothing. Her body was badly decomposed, and the cause of death could not be determined. Frida Langer was the only one in the Bennington Triangle whose disappearance ended up with a body. Some theories of the case was that it was a serial killer at large. 2 of the victims, Paul and Paula, who coincidentally share similar names, both disappeared wearing red coats. Also, the victims seemed to disappear in the afternoon around 3 to 4 p.m. Another theory is that the hikers could have simply lost their way and succumbed to hunger, thirst, or even injuries. Another theory is that they could have possibly fell down unmarked mines and shafts. In 2019, a more modern victim was found near Somerset Reservoir, and her death was ruled a homicide. A man named Devin Moffett was charged with her unaliving. Ironically enough, her family nicknamed her Red due to her red hair. One thing the many victims in the Bennington Triangle had in common was the color red. Coincidence?